Hello and welcome to my channel where I talk about things that I like, which just so happens to be TV. First, let me start with a few little announcements. I did get a new chair and a blanket that I threw over top, a Reese's Cup blanket. And I guess the channel is going to be like, of course I'm going to be talking about TV here, but all the topics are going to intertwine in a way, because everything I've talked about so far, mind you, this is the second, this is my third video, but this is the second show or movie I'm talking about, but they're all connected to me. Like this one, we all have that memory where we first come into consciousness. You know, when you're a little kid, like the first thing you remember. Well, this movie is the first thing I remember. It's the first memory I ever had. So let's go ahead and get into it. Today, we are going to be talking about the 2004 film Van Helsing. So like I said, here's a little lore about me nobody asked for. I grew up with my grandparents, and my grandparents raised me. So my first memory is sitting in the living room with my grandpa watching this movie. It came out in 2004 and I was born in 2002. I don't think this memory comes from being 2 years old. I think like the early 2000s, those were the times before streaming, obviously. So it's like you had a favorite movie and you watched it on DVD in the DVD player. Oh, what an ancient artifact, right? You watch it in the DVD player over and over again. And I think it was one of my grandpa's favorite movies, which is why I watched it so much. Anyway, that's just a little lore drop about me. But Van Helsing is a action, gothic, horror film, whatever you want to call it. And like I said, it was made in 2004 and it was directed by Stephen Sommers. And it also features Hugh Jackman. Sorry, I'm trying not to laugh, but I just cannot take Hugh seriously now that that trend is going around.
Once there was a way to get back homeward.
So rewatching it is kind of hard because when I see Hugh, that's the first thing I think of. But I'm trying to get it out of my mind. Yeah. Hugh Jackman plays Van Helsing. His name is Gabriel Van Helsing, but maybe as we get into the video, we'll get into why, like, my headcanon, his name's not Gabriel, right? His name is Abraham. If you know, you know. If you've read Dracula, you know the tea on him. Because in Dracula, the book that I would say a lot, if not most, of the vampire lore comes from, he being Van Helsing is introduced as this doctor-like figure that's brought in to help figure out Lucy's strange illness. And he essentially leads the charge that ends up killing Dracula. Which is why I said in my headcanon, the movie character's name is Abraham, not Gabriel, because I'll get into it. It just makes more sense later. The movie, however, starts off in 1887 Transylvania. We see Frankenstein, which if you didn't know, which you should know, the book has existed forever. There was a new movie that just came out. Frankenstein is not the name of the monster. Frankenstein is the name of the scientist that made the monster. So the movie starts off with Frankenstein being killed by Dracula. Dracula has offered to fund his experiments, let him use a lab that's in Dracula's castle. But Dracula is really just using him to invent the technology he needs. So once the monster is made alive,
It's alive. It's alive.
Dracula then kills Frankenstein. So this creates a whole lot of drama. The monster runs away as the mob storms Dracula's castle. This is also, of course, I was about to say a subtle nod. Not even a subtle nod. This is a nod to, of course, all the Gothic classics, because if you don't know, now you know. People say that Frankenstein and Dracula are the grandparents of the Gothic literature genre. So I think it's kind of cool. There was a nod to them at the very beginning of this movie. It makes sense. Also, I should have mentioned it when I was talking about Dracula, but recently, as in the month of January, I spent the month of January rereading where a lot of the vampire lore came from. And I ended up writing a essay that I posted on Substack about how desire is represented as vampirism. So if you're interested in reading that, make sure you look in the bio, the description for my Substack name, and go read that. But anyway, the movie picks back up 1 year later where Van Helsing, Gabriel, not Abraham, Gabriel is in the middle of killing Mr. Hyde, which of course is another nod to a horror classic, Mr. Jekyll and Dr. Hyde. Wait, what'd I say? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Anyway, after he is killed, Mr. Hyde turns to a human and his body is in the middle of Paris. And yeah, everyone's like, Van Helsing, you're a murderer. So that's like Van Helsing's whole problem. Like, he has to kill the monsters for this thing called the Order. We're about to get into them. And him being like the face of it all, he's the one that gets the backlash, while the Order gets to just stay behind and send him on missions. So while we're talking about it, the Holy Order is who Van Helsing works for, because Van Helsing literally has no memories except him crawling up porch steps and the Holy Order offering to help him. So he's doing all these jobs and like hunting all these monsters for them in hopes to be pardoned for sins he can't remember. Sounds about right. Right? So after Van Helsing successfully kills Mr. Hyde, he then meets up at the Holy Order's head of operations headquarters in the Vatican City. Is the Vatican and Vatican City two different things? I don't know. I should fact check that, but I'm not. I'm just going to keep on going. But anyway, Van Helsing's next order of business is to go to Transylvania to kill Dracula. And this is to save the last two members of this royal family. The family is an ancient Roman family called oh my God. I should probably just do the whole video without saying their name, because it's obviously not going well already. They're called the Valerius. Valerius. You know what I'm trying to say. Basically, their ancestor vowed to kill Dracula, so none of them can go to heaven until he dies. So with all of the siblings being dead, well, not all the siblings, all the family. With all the family being dead and only two remaining, all of their souls are about to be in purgatory unless Dracula is taken out. That's where the story begins. But don't worry, the Cardinal gives Van Helsing a corner of a painting that matches his ring. Also, in the orders, the Holy Order, they have a laboratory where they're constantly working to create new inventions to destroy evil. This is where we're introduced to Carl, the inventor. And I love Carl. I'm not going to lie, because He's giving Floki the boat builder energy. We all need an inventor friend that's gonna help us save the day. If you know, you know. I need to watch Vikings again so I can make a video on Vikings, but it's just, that show was made back when TV was still good, so it's a lot. It's a lot, and I could talk for a long time, so it's like, how long would that video be? But don't worry, back to regular scheduled programming here. So anyway, when Van Helsing makes it to Transylvania, the siblings, Anna and Velkin, why does the brother have a cool name like Velkin? And the sister's name is Anna. Like, that just hit me. I want to talk about it. But anyway, they're trying to kill a werewolf. Some common lore that they also include in this movie is, like I mentioned, in the book Dracula uses the wolves essentially work for Dracula. And in this movie, Belkin's opening line is literally, "Come on, Dracula unleashed you for a reason." Talking to the wolf, like the wolf needs Dracula's permission. I don't have to explain the line to you. Like, you get the nod, right? You get it, right? However, they lose this battle, like stuff goes insanely wrong. They drop the gun with the silver bullets. The cage the wolf was caged in falls. But anyway, we end up with Velkin disappearing. He's believed to have fallen into the river, but as far as everyone knows, he's dead. Then about a month later is when Van Helsing comes to town, and this town doesn't really take too kindly to strangers, might I just say.
Fine. Kill them.
I'm here to help you.
I don't need any help.
But he essentially tells him, "I'm here to help." Anna is the baddie, like, "Sir, I don't need your help." But she actually does, because this is when Dracula's brides pull up. And this is the scene when I say I came into conscience watching this movie. I'm referring to the scene where Dracula's brides are attacking the town. When I tell you that's literally my first memory, specifically the part where they're like transforming in and out of their kill the stranger.
Love to.
Would you say that's a bat form? That's not a bat form to me. It's more bird-like. I guess now is also the time we should talk about the CGI is terrible. The CGI is terrible, but we have to appreciate that it was one before AI. So even though it was terrible, it was human made, right? And then number two, it was good for the time. I think we can agree, like with a lot of movies and shows that have bad CGI, when we go back and watch it, it was good. I mean, it was bad, but the first time watching it, it was like the best thing we've ever seen. So this movie, even though I consider it one of my favorite movies, I might need to stop watching it because it's getting like, you know what? And every time I rewatch it, I don't even watch it for Van Helsing. Despite the movie being called Van Helsing, you could have called it The Brides of Dracula. Because that's the only reason why I watch it. But also, like, this is another thing, like, in common Dracula lore. In the book, Dracula, okay, I'm not even going to keep making the comparisons to the book Dracula. I think there's subtle nods, right? But me personally, I like to keep books and shows as two separate entities. So I'm going to stop bringing it up now. Well, I might bring it up one more time, actually. But it's not to compare them in a bad way. Just understand that part. Anyway, during the fight with Dracula's brides, Mariska, who, let me just say, you know, I don't have a favorite. I was about to say she's my favorite. I don't have a favorite. Yeah, she's just the first one I think of when, like I said, when I think of my first memory, she's the first one I think of. It might be because she dies in the scene, actually. This is me putting it together. It might be because she's the one that dies in the scene. That makes sense, actually. But that night, Anna hears sounds in the, I don't know, in the library. I don't know. See, like, when you talk about these gothic type of movies, and it's like a royal type of family, they live in these massive houses with rooms that, like, just has stuff to break for the scene. Because what room were they in? I can't even remember. The kitchen? I don't know. It was a big house, a lot of rooms. They were in a room, Anna hears something. She goes to explore it and turns to find out it's Velkin. Velkin? She's like, oh my gosh, I thought you died. He tries to tell his sister Dracula's secret, but not before the full moon comes up and it starts his werewolf transformation. Because he didn't die in the whole fight. We were introduced to the siblings. He was bitten by the werewolf, so now he's a werewolf. Also, like, so up to this point, we're introduced to two separate wolves. They do look different. They behave erratically, but they even behave different. Like, this is why it's one of my favorite movies, honestly, because it's the little details. Even you see a total of 3 wolves throughout the movie, and they all act differently because they're more than just a wolf. I feel like if this movie was made today, all the wolves would behave in the same goofy way, if you get what I'm trying to say. Anyway, after he transforms into a wolf in the moonlight, he flees, and Anna and Van Helsing follow him, and this is where they stumble upon Dracula is trying to oh my gosh. Dracula is trying to replicate, let's try that word. Dracula is trying to replicate the same experiment Frankenstein did to create Frankenstein's monster so he could create a bunch of undead children. This is where Dracula greets Van Helsing as Gabriel, hinting at the fact that they may know each other from the past that Van Helsing can't remember. Anyway, as Velkin is continuing to succumb to the curse, Dracula's children start disintegrating. Anna and Van Helsing have to escape. This is where they find Frankenstein's monster in a cave. So, upon figuring out that Frankenstein's monster is the key to Dracula's plan, they decide that he needs to be delivered to the order, which, like I said, is in Rome. So they begin the trip. But on the way, they are attacked by Dracula's brides again, and another one of them dies. Ugh. You know, like I already said, I watched the movie only for them, so it's like hard for me. Give me a minute. I'm just kidding. Anyway, Verona dies, and Alira, which is the last surviving bride, takes Anna as prisoner, I guess, kidnaps her. Are you a prisoner if you're kidnapped? You're just a kidnappee, right? I mean, Like, I'm not going to focus on the wording of it all because you know what I'm trying to say. So basically, Van Helsing tries to lock the monster away. So, because the whole thing is Alira took Anna to trade her for the monster. But it's no sense in me even explaining it because Dracula's side ends up getting Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster. Okay? Look, because I already explained, the monster is not Frankenstein. That's who made him. But we're not going to get into it again because I already explained it. While that is happening, Dracula is having a ball that Anna attends. She's in kind of like this trance state. And this is where one of the best scenes in vampire media comes from. Because tell me, like, I can't even explain how it feels. Like, I wish I could be there to see this scene for the first time again. Whenever they're dancing and they turn and Anna looks up and she realizes it's a vampire only masquerade. She's the only human there.
Don't we make a lovely couple?
Because in traditional lore, vampires can't see themselves in mirrors. So when she looks up in the mirror, she only sees herself. But if you look outside of the mirror, it's a room full of people. It was so genius. And it's so beautiful, the coloring, everything. But we won't get too much into it. But Carl, like I previously mentioned, Carl has these inventions for defeating evil. And he has like this light bomb thing. So Van Helsing and Carl together, they infiltrate the ball and they're able to save Anna and get her back. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Back at Anna's castle is where Carl is explaining Dracula's whole lore and how he is one of the elders of Anna's family. He is his son. He's the son of one of the elders of Anna's bloodline. Anna's bloodline. We'll just leave it at that. Anna and Valken's bloodline. He was killed in 1462, but he made a deal with the devil to continue to live on and be immortal, essentially. The elder was told he needed to kill his son to earn salvation for his whole family, but he failed. Instead, he just locks him away in the castle we know today as Dracula's castle, essentially. That's the lore behind it all. And the fragment of that little painting that Van Helsing got from the cardinal at the Vatican explains us to this more, is what I was gonna say. Explains this to us more. The only way Dracula can die is for a werewolf to kill him. And also, I can't believe I did this. A whole part I forgot to mention is that when they're attacked on the way to Rome, Van Helsing is bitten by a werewolf. So along the way, they also meet Igor, which is Dracula's do-boy. I don't know how to explain him. He's supposed to be the comic relief character, I feel like. He's like Dracula's servant. Like, that's the only way I can explain him. So the plan is Igor, Anna, and Carl are going to get the cure, because Dracula has the cure. The cure that Dracula has can stop Van Helsing's transformation into a werewolf if he takes it before the next full moon. So they are going to retrieve that cure while Van Helsing is going to free Frankenstein's monster. However, during that whole plan, the monster is struck by lightning, which then brings to life all of Dracula's kids. So this is when Dracula spots Van Helsing and a fight between the two breaks out, and Dracula transforms into this like demonic form, while Van Helsing, this whole time he's been trying to fight his werewolf. He's been trying to fight his werewolf side, but he gives in. The moonlight hits him just right, whatever you want to call it. He transforms into his werewolf side, and the two start fighting. This is when Dracula reveals, you are the one who killed me. So way back whenever I told you the lore is Dracula died, but he made a deal with the devil. When he died, that's who killed him. Gabriel. Van Helsing. And Dracula offers to give Van Helsing all of his memories back if he just keeps him alive, right? But Van Helsing decides not to take that offer and bites him anyways. Right after Van Helsing kills Dracula, he turns around and focuses on Anna. He starts attacking Anna right as Anna is trying to inject him with the cure, but it's too late. He's like howling in grief because he's transforming back into human, but he knows what he just did as a wolf. Anyway, Anna dies. Van Helsing and Carl get rid of Anna's body, and they see her spirit reunite with her family spirit, and they're all like smiling, happy. So we are to infer that they made it into heaven, because in a way, Anna did make sure Dracula died. So all her family souls can reach salvation. But the bloodline is dead. Like, they're no more. So sad it couldn't happen sooner before the last two died, right? Frankenstein's monster, he ends up being okay too. He departs in a raft, and then Van Helsing and Carl ride into the sunset towards Stonehenge, by the way. And that is the end of the movie. One of my favorite movies. I love it. I love it so much. Is it too late to just get an entire movie on Dracula's Brides? I feel like we need that. In the comments, let me know if you liked this movie. Also, do you think Van Helsing still continued to hunt monsters, or is he like good now since he has that one bit of memory back? I don't know. And like I said, I was gonna bring up the book one more time. I feel like it's more closely related to Dracula, because what if the Order is just like the whole gang of people that killed in the book Dracula? Like Jonathan, John. Yes, there's a Jonathan and a John in the book Dracula. Mina. Yeah, like the whole group. I think the people who survived, because if you haven't read Dracula in a while, Quincy dies. I think the surviving group made the Order, but they did something to Van Helsing and made him forget his memories, which is why he's confused, which is why they don't want him to have his memories. I don't know how that theory goes, but in my head it makes sense. But let me know your theories in the comments. Make sure you also subscribe, because I have 11 subscribers, I think. Wait, it might only be 6 though. Just so let me not get too happy. I haven't checked it in a minute. I think I might got Substack and YouTube confused. But however many, make sure you join. Make sure you join the club, because my YouTube edit. Look, now I'm trying to talk too fast because I'm getting excited. My YouTube videos are bad right now, but they're going to get better. So you have to subscribe now so you can say you've been here since the beginning. Duh.